Chances are you've been using ChatGPT for a little while now, but you know you're missing out from its core features. You're probably using it as a more advanced search engine and asking it for specific things, but those higher level prompts and outputs aren't quite into your day-to-day stack yet. Well, good news, by the end of this video, you'll have mastered some key things that'll really level up your performance and genuinely save you so many hours every week. The biggest value in this stage of using GPT is to make faster decisions, build repeatable systems, compress hours of work into minutes, and create outputs to level yourself up way beyond beginner status and give you exact action steps so you can do it yourself. So by the end of this video, you'll no longer be using ChatGPT as a chatbot and go from a casual user to a power user. Number one is to use GPT to make decisions, not just ask it for advice. One of the biggest mistakes early on is being too general. You ask it general questions for general advice, and then the LLM spits back very general information for you, and it doesn't feel that helpful or tailored to you. And the simple answer is you just didn't prompt it properly. You want to force GPT into a singular laneway where it compares real options under very real constraints. That is when it becomes most powerful. And that's because for a lot of decisions, there isn't this one magical answer that no matter what you put as your question or your prompt, it's going to tell you that because it's simply the best. Oftentimes you have things like trade-offs, risk, timelines, and opportunity costs, and that's where ChatGPT becomes most valuable. If you live in a Western city, work a full-time job, and want to increase income, you might only have 2 to 4 hours a day, and that context matters, and the right answer for you is not the same as the right answer for somebody else. For this, it's all about giving ChatGPT the context it needs to make decisions for you. And actually, let me just add a side point here. Have you even let ChatGPT fully interview you yet? If you haven't done that yet, let that be the first thing you do. Literally give it your life story, everything that you're working towards, all your past life experiences, and you may forget things too. So actually tell ChatGPT that it is a professional interviewer, and the goal is to get as much context from your life as possible. Break down relationships, how you think, your past jobs, no matter how small it is, these type of decision-making things that GPT will learn from the patterns you actually do in your life. Over time, will give you a specific framework that works best for you, how you think, how you learn, how you operate, and that is just step one in getting much better prompts and GPT to do decision making for you. So back to point one for this video, let's talk about getting GPT to make decisions for you. Some action steps for you might be figure out how to increase your income, whether to move cities, whether to do freelance work, stay employed, grow a social media business, or a side hustle. Then from there, you're gonna write your real situation in 4 parts. Where are you now? Break down specifically what you want, what actual constraints you have, and with working like things with constraints, it's really important to tell ChatGPT it actually has permission to bounce back and ask you questions too. Because if you say your constraints are, well, I only have 2 to 4 hours to work 4 days a week, but you say this thing like leveling up your income is your highest priority, it might actually clap back and say, well, I see you're doing all these things. What if you put those on hold for 3 months and do this? And that way it just gives it more power to give you the best possible scenario so you can level up faster. Then once you have this, tell ChatGPT to act like a strategic advisor based on the situation and give you 3 realistic paths you could take. Tell it to include expected upside, risk level, time to results, biggest downside, then ask which option would you recommend and why, then turn that option into a 30-day action plan. Of course, that was just an example scenario, but essentially think of what you want for your type of decisions that you need help with in your life and build it around this, and it'll create a circular thinking. And that's how you'll go from circular thinking to a structured decision. Let's move on to creating proper prompt structure. Here is where we really get rid of the general and get world-class answers catered just for you. For every prompt, we must have a role, who should GPT act like, a context, what background information does it need, command, what exactly do you want it to do, and a format, how do you want the answer delivered. And this is part of the major steps that are going to really help for the next 2 points in this list, helping set up your master prompt. Now we get into things like planning your week, week. And if you write it in a 4-part structure, it could look something like, act like a performance coach for the role. For context, I work full-time, 9.5 hours including transport time. I want to train 4 times a week, and I want to learn a new skill. The command could be, build me a realistic weekly schedule, and the format, give it to me as a Monday to Sunday checklist with calendar. Let's actually build a master prompt for every major role in your life. Each of these is gonna have a certain role in your life. So think business owner you, parent you, fitness journey you, whatever the major things you have in your life, create a version for that. Make sure to carefully break down your goals, your preferences, your current situation, your responsibilities, how you make decisions, what matters to you, and what you're trying to avoid. Now, it's really important that you take the most time with this step and give it all the context you possibly can. Yes, it'll take a little bit more time, but then once you have this master prompt built for each specific scenario in your life, you can get results so much faster and they're perfectly catered to you. So then for a couple examples, let's say it's business you that you've built this template on. Let's say you're trying to come up with a new sales strategy or something happened at work, or you have a boss and a situation came up and you're not sure how to deal with it. Well, then all you have to do is type in master prompt and then the role name that you chose, then the specific scenario or question that you're asking. And then in just a couple words, it'll give you a masterful answer based on the previous parameters. Now, finally, let's talk about pull prompting and using system prompts to get the best possible reusable machines. Now that we've already set up all your roles in the past steps, let's dive into certain situations where you just need more information. Let's say something big that you haven't come across before, or there's more potential for upside, you just don't know what it is, or you're going into a new field and you simply don't know enough yet. This is where you get your role, you tell ChatGPT your role, let's say it's the business owner role. Then the pull prompting here is, given what my role is and the industry I'm looking at getting into, what is everything that you, ChatGPT, need to ask me to give the best possible picture of the things I don't know? And that's where, given the roles you've already built, GPT now fully understands the questions it needs to ask you in a specific domain to get the best possible answer for you. And then at the end of every time you do this, also make sure to ask GPT, what are some counterpoints to this, or what are some other things people are doing that are going against what you're saying, and why do they do that? And then that way you get a better, more all-rounded approach to understanding your problem and both sides to it, the one GPT recommends and what other people are doing. So when it's time to make your own decision, you just have all the possible information. And fortunately, with the speed of these AI tools, instead of spending something like 20 hours of research, you can do all of this within 30 minutes. That brings us to the end of this ChatGPT video. Subscribe if you want to find more lists like this. In future videos, we're going to cover more tips on how to use GPT more effectively, things like Claude and Claude Cowork to make your life so much easier, as well as how to use video tools to help your everyday life or social media like VO3, and of course, answer any questions you may have in the comments. So definitely let us know below, and we'll see you in the next AI video.